Okay, next up is choosing a domain. Now this is going to be the most important part of this course. This is where you need to pay attention because it's what's going to make the most impact. This is why you paid whatever you paid for the course. It's not to know how to do keyword research or niche selection. Those were just, little helpful tips. This is what's going to make or break you in the rankings on Bing. And if you do this right, you'll rank, and if you don't, you probably won't rank, or you won't rank as fast at least. So this is the most important part. It's more important than your links. It's more important than how you set up your website. Because if you don't get this first part right, the rest of it really doesn't matter. And like I said, this is going to be 90% of your ability to rank, and it's going to be a little bit unusual because it's something new, something that hasn't been done before. It's something that most people don't do, and it's something that you probably haven't seen before. So I just want you to keep an open mind and let me explain it out in full. And as always, if you have questions, you know my email. Contact me and I'll help you through it and I'll explain it. This is going to cost you twice as much as usual than you're used to paying for a domain. I think it's worth it though. And you will not want to use private whois. I'll explain on that a little bit later, but do not use private whois for this because it's not going to help you. Bing doesn't like websites that use private whois information. That's not to say you can't rank with it, but you'll be much better off if you use at least fake your whois information. It's really easy to use whois information that's believable and looks accurate. That's much better solution. So, choosing a domain. It needs to be keyword rich. No surprise, Bing really likes this. Make sure you use the keyword. Don't overstuff the keyword, obviously, but if your keyword, for example, is diapills, use diapillstogo.com or whatever. Well, actually, don't use diapillstogo.com. I'll show you in a minute what you'll want to use. And you'll want to focus on one keyword at a time. You don't want to choose a domain like diapills and weight loss togo.com or whatever. With Bing, you really have to target one keyword at a time. Number one, because it likes to rank home pages, so you're really not going to rank sub pages. And number two, it puts a lot of emphasis on the root topic of your domain, and it gets that from the keywords of your domain. The closer you can get to exact match, the better. You don't have to use exact match domains, but the higher the keyword density in the domain, the much better you are. Here's the big secret. You have to use a third level domain. Okay, everybody knows that if you have something like Bing, Bing.com, that is a second level domain. And then a third level domain would be Bing.us.com. The us.com is an already registered domain name, and what you're basically doing is you are getting a subdomain on the us.com domain. So all of your domains will be keyword.us.com. I know a lot of you probably haven't seen that before. I think the closest example I could give you would be with the co.uk. Whenever you want to register a domain in the United Kingdom, you would usually go for a .co.uk, and you see this with .co.jp for Japan, for example. You see this with Australia too. They use .com.au. Those are all third level domains. They're geo domains, but they're also third level domains, and that's what we'll be using. So why keyword.us.com? Bing really likes established websites. It likes sites that have been around for a while. It likes sites that are old. It doesn't really like new sites. If you register a new domain and you try to rank it, you're going to have an uphill battle because Bing really likes age. It likes those nice aged domains. But there's a little loophole in that. It passes trust and authority onto subdomains. And when you register a domain that is keyword.us.com, Bing can't tell the difference. It doesn't know that, at least right now, the way it is, it doesn't know that you have a quote-unquote new domain. It just sees the us.com, and then it sees your keyword, and it says, oh, this is a keyword of, or this, excuse me, this is a subdomain of us.com. All the trust, authority, age, and the backlinks that us.com has, those now pass on to you. And there are thousands and thousands of legitimate websites using the .us.com extension. Your site is now one of them. So you now have all that built-in credibility and trust that those domains have built. It's a little bit kind of like with Google. You know, people like to use Web 2.0 websites because they pass the domains pass on that authority, that age, and that trust to the subdomains. And that's what's happening with Bing. Except in this case, Web 2.0 properties really don't work that well, mostly because they use heavy themes, and because I think Bing manually filters them out. We'll get more into that later, but for now what you need to know is you need to stick with .us.com domains. And what you get from this is you get a free pass. You can start ranking within a matter of days, within a week even, sometimes faster. Your links, they count. You want to use exact match anchors, you can do pretty much whatever you want because you have the trust, authority, and the credibility of the us.com domain. Even though you're not really a part of it, Bing doesn't have a way of knowing, and they would have to change their entire algorithm in order to catch up. Now later on they might. I'm not going to say that this method is going to be around forever, because that's what Google does now. Google views each subdomain as its own independent domain. Bing doesn't do that. Bing sees every subdomain as a part of the main domain. That's why this little loophole works. So where do you buy these types of domains? Well, lots of registers offer them, but I like Namecheap. Everybody likes Namecheap. They probably use Namecheap, and you get free Whois privacy, which, well, you're not going to use that. Like I said before, you're going to stick to fake Whois information. But when you register a domain through Namecheap, they're going to give you basically a code that you can use for Whois privacy, and you can use that on other domains, just not on this domain. Internet.bs is also another great option. They're a little bit less known than Namecheap, but the good thing about them is that they're more tolerant of complaints against your domain. They're not, bulletproof domain register. No domain register is, but they're a lot more tolerant about that stuff. Where somebody like GoDaddy or Namecheap might suspend you for something, Internet.bs is for the most part going to ignore that. And on domains, you do have the option of using these other root domains: eu.com, us.org, and in.net, which is $8 at internet.bs. The only thing about these is, remember, this method works because you're taking the authority of the root domain and you're transferring it over to your quote-unquote subdomain. So while eu.com, us.org, and in.net are more established, and at least for Bing, they're much better than a brand new domain, the us.com extension still has the most authority, and it gives you the fastest results. in.net isn't that bad. I've used it a few times. It's not too bad, but still, us.com is better, and you really don't save that much. You save $10, but I think that extra $10 is worth it for being able to rank faster. Just my opinion. And a little quick note, don't use subdomains. So, sticking with the diet pills example, don't go for best.dietpillstogo.us.com. That's not going to work. I've tried that, and it's just Bing doesn't allow it for some reason. It just doesn't work, and I've never had any luck with it. So save yourself the time and frustration. I want to go back to this section right here on choosing a domain. A lot of people have not seen the .us.com extension, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to show you how you search for it, and it's very easy. It's just like picking any other domain. Okay, we are here on the Namecheap interface, as you can see. And how you register these domains, it's very, very simple. It's just like registering any other type of domain. You can see I used an example here, dietpillstogo.us.com, $17.88 a year. All you have to do is add it to your cart, and you can check out from there. And you buy it just like any other domain. You set it up with your cPanel just like any other domain, and it works exactly the same. I know this is an extension that a lot of you probably haven't seen before, but it works exactly like a regular domain. If you want to buy a new domain, you search for domains the same way you would with any other domain. We can search for something like what's a good keyword to use? Let's search for dog toys, right? And we just search for dogtoysforme.us.com, and we hit search, and it takes a little bit longer than other domains, but so you can see right here, it's available for $17.88 a year. All you do is you add it to your cart, and you go to checkout, and you check out just like any other domain. You get free WhoisGuard, but you want to disable that. You do not want to use WhoisGuard for this, because remember what I told you, Bing does not like domains that use private Whois information. And you manage it just like you would any other domain, like a regular .com domain. You can go in, you change your name server records to your hosting account, you point it towards your server, and you log into cPanel, and you set up your WordPress, and it's just like any other domain. It's really not that different. I know it's something new, and it's something a lot of people haven't seen. It's, you know, if you're from the United Kingdom, you probably have. You're used to it because of the .co.uk extension. But for those of us here in the US and in other parts of the world that don't use those third-level domains, that is what it looks like. And you register it just like you would any other domain. And it's easy to manage, and like I said, this is what's going to provide 90% of your ranking factor. This is the single most important step in the process. You have to use a .us.com extension, because it's what works. And you know what, let me show you a quick example while I'm here in the browser now. Let's go to bing.com, and you know, for a long time, for those of you who have listened to my previous webinars, one of the best ways to find out what's working right now in SEO is by looking what the Chinese replica clothing sellers are doing. Why them? Well, number one, there's a lot of them, and number two, they try everything under the sun. I don't know how many of you can read Mandarin. I can't, but I do have a VA who can. And he goes in and he translates all this stuff. They do some crazy tests on those Chinese forums. They test everything from headings to keyword density in the domain, certain types of themes and links, and all these little things that they split test. And because there's so many of them, and because they make so much money, at least relative to what they could earn in China, they have a lot of motivation to test it out. And I don't agree with what they're doing by selling replica clothes. I think it's wrong the way they kind of, you know, deceive people like that, selling off replica clothes as authentic. But you can learn a lot from them, because whatever they're doing, it's what's working right now at the moment in SEO. And if you want an example of one of the keywords to research, all you have to do is search for something like this: cheap NFL jerseys, right? Something that they sell a lot of. And look right here, us.com. us.com. This one's .us, but this one's us.com. us.com. us.com, 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 and if I go on the second page, you're going to see more of it. See us.com, 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 eu.com, a little bit different. It's also another option you can use. It's a decent extension, but I think we should stick to this, the us.com, because it carries the most trust. That is what you are siphoning off when you're using this method. You're taking all the trust and credibility that us.com has, and you are giving it to you and your domain. That's what makes this method work. And see, now you start seeing some more of these regular sites. You see in.net here, and more us.com, us.com, and us.com. That is how this method works. And if you go into your favorite link research tool, you look up these keywords, you'll see that they are using, a lot of them are just throwing everything up against the wall. But I split tested the kind of links that work, which we'll get into in a minute, and they can rank easily within a matter of days, really. I mean, some of them are churning out a lot of links because they're kind of taking a shotgun approach. They're blasting everything up against the wall to see what sticks. And if you want to do that, you can do that, but it's not necessary because, number one, it's going to waste a lot of your time, money, and energy, and a lot of resources. And you know, with this method, your goal is probably to scale as fast as possible. You want to take your website, build it, build your links, and then move on to the next one, because that's how you make the most money with this. Is that it's not ranking one or two websites, it's ranking a lot of websites for a lot of different keyword terms. And if, like I said, if you want to find out what's working right now in SEO at any given time, search for keywords like this. And as a matter of fact, we can go on Google and do the same thing. I know this isn't about Google, but just to show you how, you know, I want to say innovative. You can see that a lot of these websites ranking, see, that's obviously not a legitimate website. Neither is this. Neither is this. Fans Edge is legitimate. You know, this is not a legitimate Jersey website. And you can see that these guys are able to rank and the methods they use. So I know this isn't about Google, but from now, if you haven't seen the webinars in the past, I've talked about this before. If you want to find out what's working, take a look at what these guys are doing. Even if you don't agree with what they're selling or how they're doing it, you can learn a lot by watching the type of sites they build and the types of links they create. One thing I do have to warn you about, though, these guys, like I said, they take the shotgun approach and they throw everything up against the wall. So I don't think it's a good idea to copy their link building, because it gives you, there's a lot of noise in that. But as you can see, what's working for them is using age domains in Google right now. I'm not going to expand on that because you probably already knew that, and this is more about Bing than it is Google. But it is very useful to know if you want to rank in any search engine. Keywords like this, like cheap NFL jerseys or cheap Beats by Dre, keywords like Louis Vuitton outlet, those types of keywords that are fashion related keywords. If you search for those, you will find a lot of information and a lot of tactics that nobody else is really talking about. And it's a great resource. And this is how they're ranking right now in Bing. They're using those .us.com extensions. As you can see, very keyword rich domains all across the board. You can use double hyphens too. See, this guy used double hyphens for cheap NFL jerseys, and that'll work. But the most important part, the most crucial thing you have to take away from this is to use the .us.com extension. That is what's going to separate you from the people who rank in Bing versus the people who don't rank in Bing. And as long as you use that domain, you will rank.